Good morning, gentlemen. I am Colonel Cartographer. I am your commanding officer. It is a great pleasure to see you all here today. It is my hope that this same courage, spirit, and honor which has brought us together will one day restore this union. Who's up for Gettysburg?
War games are truly a unique genre. They originated with the military need to study tactics and reenact old battles for instructional purposes. The first war game was invented in 1811 and called Kriegsspiel. It involved a grid system allowing players to create terrain and a confidant who would calculate and assess moves, much like a modern-day game master. Several conventions used in Kriegsspiel established the conventions we still use today. Things like using a red versus blue color scheme, complex movement and combat rules, and the passage of time between turns. Pieces had different movement speeds that were calculated using special compasses. The game was geared toward Prussian military officers who would play each other in 5v5 matches. The game allowed Prussian officers to become more independent and responsible. It was even accredited to the success of the Prussian campaigns during the Wars of Unification. Fast forward to 1950. While miniatures were still used in many war games of the time, cheaper cardboard board game versions started to be published. The first of which was Charles S. Roberts' Tactics in 1953. Tactics revolutionized wargame mechanics. It designated movement and combat scores for units, used an odds ratio combat results table, and created movement penalties for moving across different types of terrain. The game proved to be very popular, selling over 2,000 units. Roberts realized the opportunity in publishing war games for adults and founded Avalon Hill to do just that. In 1958, Tactics 2 was published along with Gettysburg, Avalon Hill's first historically based war game. This early edition of Gettysburg was based on miniature game rules. As such, it used range cards instead of grid-based movement. The game would end up going through several revisions between 1958 and 1977. Today, we'll be looking at the 1964 version.
Gettysburg strives to be as historically accurate as possible. You get 3 units on the board to start with, 2 from the Union and 1 from the Confederate. As reinforcements come in, they show up at real time, such as when the artillery came up at 8 a.m. on July 1st.
Units attack each other by entering the enemy's zone of control. They can gain combat bonuses by flanking or attacking downhill. Likewise, any defensive unit on higher ground will get their attack score doubled for that battle. After calculating bonuses, players consult the battle table to determine the odds. Then they roll the dice and proceed accordingly.
A good strategy for this game is to surround your opponent and increase your attack score. This bumps up your odds of actually eliminating your opponent versus driving them back 2 feet. Another good thing is that if you have artillery attached to your units, you can send that to attack one of them and deal with the rest of the army at a higher advantage.
In this example, it's the Union player's turn. He's guaranteed of eliminating Hood, who has been surrounded. Hood's combat factor doubles to 6 because he's on a ridge. The Union player gangs up on Hood with Humphrey at 6 because of a flank. Von Steinwehr is at 3, Barlow is at 6, and 2nd Volunteer is at 4. This brings the total of 19 to 6, rounded down to 3 to 1 against Hood. An exchange here would not affect the 2nd Volunteer because Pelgrim's artillery is not included in this attack. In order to arrange the attack in this manner, the Union player soaks off the 4th Volunteer at 4 thanks to a flank, against Early at 8 because of his ridge defense. This brings the odds to 1 to 2. But any bad effects made to the 4th Volunteer will be ignored because it's protected by Humphreys. In addition, Custer at 2 because of a rear assault attacks Pegram at normal. This brings their odds at 1 to 1. Finally, Farnsworth at 2 because of a rear assault attacks Hampton at 2 because of higher ground. This also brings their odds at 1 to 1.
Basically, if you like war games or strategy games, you'll like Gettysburg. It's complex enough that you need to plan out where to put your pieces every turn, but simple enough that you don't need to take measurements and calculations when you attack. But be prepared for a long haul, because it takes up to 3 hours to complete one game. I'm the Cartographer. Join us next time as we map out more secrets of the board and card game world on the Gamer's Atlas.